and welcome back to Decoding Dragons, CouchSoup's Watching Now podcast, where we break down all things House the Dragon. We're your hosts, Liza and Michelle, spilling the royalty and breaking down the fire on every episode.
Yeah, so I have read A Song of Ice and Fire, the series, and I've binged the original Game of Thrones series multiple times, and Liza has seen the show and read Fire and Blood, so when it comes to Thrones and Dragon lore, we got you covered. So we are talking about House of the Dragon, the big players in the dance, and of course, the dragons! So let's go ahead and jump into what happened in Season 2, Episode 7, The Red Sowing. Yay, finally!
You took the words right out of my mouth. No, we finally got the Red Sowing, and it was everything I could have wanted and more.
It was awesome. It was so cool.
I felt bad for the record. I felt bad for the people, but the dragons were so cool. They were so cool. So
I have to say, ever since we started this show, and you've always talked about the Red Sowing and stuff, I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like they'll put calls out for people who have maybe Targaryen ancestry. But watching it unfold the way they did it was so good. It was so cool.
It was. I also liked it. Like, there's like an above viewing level, and Rhaenyra's like,
right.
Did this? I'm gonna stay and watch what happens. But no, Vermithor. Okay, first of all, spoiler warning.
Yeah.
Obligatory spoiler warning. We talk about the canon of Fire and Blood, which is what House the Dragon is based off of. So we try to save our like major spoilers for the end of the episode in our Dragon Dream section. But I get carried away, so you may find some spoilers throughout. If you don't want any of that, just come back after you've seen the episode or after you finish the season at this point, which would work out really well. But if you like know all the tea like we do, then we got you covered. Now, as I was saying, Hugh and Ulf got their dragons, and Hugh's moment with Vermithor might be some of my all-time favorite Game of Thrones moments ever. It was so good. And I'm biased because I write a similar scene to that in my book. So it was like seeing it come to life. It was wonderful.
I love that. It was so fun. First of all, the cinematography was phenomenal. Like watching Rhaenyra turn around with Vermithor behind her, and then there were a couple other shots we'll get into later, but like the dragons look good.
They did. And okay, so we haven't ever seen Silverwing on screen, and subtracting the part that I have no idea why Silverwing picked him after he stepped in the nest, that makes no sense to me.
No,
Going
really
purely
annoying.
off the visuals, Silverwing is so pretty. She had like these veins of it looked kind of iridescent to me, but there was like shining silver. She was gorgeous and beautiful. And for those who don't know, Jaehaerys is the king who ruled before Viserys, and Vermithor is Jaehaerys' dragon, and Silverwing was Alysanne, his wife's dragon. So these dragons know each other. They've flown together a lot. It's kind of funny because their writers don't know each other right now, but
right.
It's just that's just some context to keep in mind moving forward. But
neither one of them have had a writer since Jaehaerys and Alysanne passed, right?
Right. They stood on solidarity. They're like, I'm going to hold out. And I don't know why Silverwing picked Ulf, but in the show, Hugh and Vermithor, it was just, that was good. That was good Game of Thrones stuff. I had a fantastic time.
It was.
We did have some, like, I guess, smaller scale stuff happen. So the first scene made me so happy. Addam and Rhaenyra make friends. This scene is very important. So it made me really happy, but also, like, put me in my feelings. So Alicent went AWOL to go for a swim.
And ignore her Queensguard, whatever.
And ignore her Kingsguard, who's just out here eating rabbits and not living his best life. I would want to go home as well.
He's trying to prepare the rabbits for Alicent, and she's just like, I'm retiring now. It's 5:00 in the evening. You're on your own. Goodbye.
I would have been so offended. I'm like, I'm sorry. For this moment, we're going home. Like, I'm just going to override your authority. I'm taking you home.
My Uber is here. I gotta go.
Do you have any idea what's out in these woods? And you only brought one of me. There's only one. But Aegon is on the mend, and that was nice to see. Like, I'm really liking him and Ish. I'm really liking him and Larys's scenes together. It's really good. And Jace is really troubled with the dragon seed situation, which I'm going to talk about kind of in my questions for you. So I won't lean on that too long. And I'm pretty sure that like Rhaena is going to get Sheepstealer. Like,
that was part of my questioning for you. I wanted to know if that was the dragon, so we can get into it in a little bit.
Yeah, we can get into it for sure. But mostly this episode, to me, it was slow until the dragon seeds.
Yeah.
And for me, the dragon seeds like made this episode good because it was dragony goodness. And I know I keep saying that every episode, but it was. So we are going to go ahead and jump into the blood section and talk about it because I have no patience and cannot wait.
Perfect.
Okay, so my first question is very vague. I got totally, I guess, distracted and overwhelmed by how amazing the dragon scenes were. And it was very hard for me to think of things that weren't related to the dragon scenes. So, other than the dragon scenes, what was your favorite part of this episode?
Other than the dragon scenes, that's
I know, I'm being heartless right now.
I have to say, probably the interactions between Alicent and her Queensguard, because he is so exasperated. He's just like so annoyed about life. He's like, why are we in like the woods? Why are we doing Alicent in Wonderland? I don't understand why we're here.
Alicent in Wonderland.
I have to give my husband credit for that. He came up with that. I thought it was great.
I got you. No, I like he was the sass this episode. Yeah. He was like, first of all, he's gonna send me by myself, and we all know what's in that Kingswood, and he's gonna bring me. First of all, second, we're staying out here for a prolonged period of time, and all you got's tent, and like I got like she only brought one person to protect her, which means he's on guard, on watch all the time. There is no break. Like, what's he gonna do? Sit her on watch? So like I got personally offended on his behalf because he hasn't gotten no sleep. And I was like, I guarantee you.
Say though, switching gears for a second, Daemon did something this episode.
Okay, I'll rein it back in. On another topic, I suppose. How do you feel about Rhaena and Sheepstealer? Because you haven't read Fire and Blood yet, but I'm going to convince you to read it very soon.
Probably will.
But I know you know about Nettles because I think I talked about Nettles briefly. So how do you feel about the show with both ends of knowledge, like with just show knowledge and a little bit of knowing about Nettles?
So I'm a little disappointed because the way you've talked about Nettles is I would love to meet her. But I like where they're going with Rhaena's character because they've kind of led up to this moment with her, right? Because they're talking about how much she doesn't have a dragon yet and she needs a dragon and this and that about dragons. And so she's being a Targaryen going for it. She's just going to go meet a dragon and get one. Like that's pretty cool.
I really like the determination on her face because so far, like, I feel like she has passive is not the right word. I'm not trying to say she has been passive. But she has been kind of, I guess, discouraged by the fact she didn't get a dragon when she was younger. And I really like that, like, seize the day attitude that she had. She was like, all right, you know what? It was
Jane Eyre's face. Like, she was just like, you can do it. And Rhaena's like, you know what? You're right.
Oh, see, I think I misread Jane's expression. I like your read better. I like that.
What was yours?
I thought that like they were parting on a little bit of bad blood because I know that Jane was like, basically you're still not happy. Like I am. I think the last time they spoke, she was watching. Rhaena was in the room, and Jane was like, "Well, I thought you'd be happier about this, but you still seem upset." And then Rhaena was like, "Well, you misled me. There is a dragon in the Vale." So I thought maybe they parted on like some tension, but I like your read on that better. Like it's there.
Yeah, I kind of took it as encouraging to like go get the dragon, and so Rhaena was kind of like, okay, fine, I'll go do it.
Yeah, no, that was a very like if we can't get Nettles, like if I have to let it go, then I just hope that they do Rhaena and Sheepstealer well. Like I just hope they do that well. If I have to let Nettles go, as long as it's done well, I'll keep Nettles in my head moving forward. But speaking actually of the whole Dragon Seeds moment, so this is kind of, I guess, what I was also thinking about while all the dragony epicness was happening. So Jace's reaction to the Dragon Seeds kind of gave me a new perspective, like to consider. So in the book, the Red Sowing is his idea, and it is possible that it comes from his parentage, showing that he wasn't, threatened by it, but instead was like, I mean, we need help. I can dragon ride. There's a possibility others can too, even though he does have like Targaryen blood on his mom's side. Mm-hmm. Like maybe his parentage kind of inspired the, okay, well, if there's blood on any side, like maybe they can do it. But in
Right.
the show, he seems like very like he's reluctant. And it does make sense because to some degree it does threaten his claim because like, well, if you don't need any Targaryen blood to dragon ride, even though I liked how they kind of said Addam might have some because we don't know who his mom's name is Marilda. We don't know what blood Marilda had. And also like Valerians are the blood of old Valyria. So Jace
And
doesn't.
nobody knows that Addam is Corlys Velarion's bastard son yet, right?
He has not made the announcement. But he does come forward and like I don't know. I think that he comes forward. I know that he has the natural. I think the word is naturalized. I could be wrong. But that's where like instead of Addam and Alan of Hull, they're Addam Valerian and Alan Valerian. So like they're like official heirs to the that's a spoiler. Caught it. So yeah, so what are your thoughts, I guess, on Jace's thoughts on the dragon seeds? Like what's your thoughts on that conflict?
So I like your perspective. I was a little confused in the moment because it was like, well, this was originally your idea, but now you're getting butthurt about it. But the other thing that you really have to consider and what I started thinking about was this kid is a kid. He's a baby. He's a boy. Not a man yet. In Game of Thrones terms, maybe he's a man, but he's not actually a man yet. So he's dealing with a lot of things happening. His mother and his family are at war. He's lost his brother. Now he's questioning his own legitimacy and his father and his parents. Like there's a lot going on in there. So I enjoyed the depth that they took his character because of that. And that was my perspective on it. You were able to really read a lot from his facial expressions. I liked that he is now kind of questioning his own idea of like, well, what does this mean? Like, are we just a commoner then? Are we not actually gods? And so it's them, obviously they're not gods, but it's them kind of realizing, oh, maybe it's basically what Viserys has told Rhaenyra from the beginning that Jace didn't get. That was the fact that we can control dragons is a myth. Like that's something that humans should never have even messed with.
I do remember Viserys saying that, yeah.
Yeah. So I liked it. I think they really brought his character a lot of depth.
I think so too. And I think that it was nice kind of seeing the conflict because I think he was all for like in the show, he's all for it as long as they have noble birth because that doesn't undermine his position in the show.
Right.
But as soon as it was like, well, anybody off the street with, any Targaryen blood or possibly Valerian blood because there's a chance that maybe in the past, I don't know my entire Game of Thrones other family trees. I know the Targaryen one, but there's a chance that they may have like intermarried in the past, Valerian Targaryen. And so like that anybody with any Targaryen blood who doesn't have to be of noble birth can dragon ride. Or possibly you don't need it. I do understand like where he was coming from, but I like that you mentioned that Viserys had said, it's a myth that we control them because like right after that in the show, Aemond and Luke happens, kind of showing that. And so I know a thing that I can't talk about, but if they lose control of their dragons again, they may be able to make it make sense. I like Fire and Blood's canon thinking about it in the way that they are in control of the dragons because I think it makes them make harder choices. But maybe they can make the big stuff make sense if they lose control of their dragons as well.
Okay, that's interesting.
Speaking of dragons, I did want to talk about Silverwing and Ulf's bond. Maybe someone in our comments will understand because I do not understand why they made Ulf and Silverwing bond like that because I just flashed immediately to Jurassic Park. I was like, stepped on the eggs. Maybe he didn't break one. Maybe he broke the shell, but not an egg. But like he stepped on the nest, which I can only assume is hers, and she immediately was like, "Yes, this is the one that I want." I'm like, I feel like they could have had a more compelling moment to bond. Like I feel like that made no sense. Yeah,
I was with total Jurassic Park, but also like that Damsel in Distress movie with Millie Bobby Brown on Netflix or whatever. I don't know if you watched that with the dragon.
Oh, I watched it.
She like went down and like found the dragon in his little cave or what? Not she didn't go down. She fell. Anyway, beyond the point.
No, yeah, I know what you're talking
about. But Ulf was just wandering around the dragon caverns as one does.
Yeah, as one does.
Steps in a dragon egg nest, and then the dragon's like, oh, okay, I like you. You're right. I'm like, wait. Why that one? I don't understand. Yeah, I'm with you.
This one that came in here on accident and just stepped on your eggs. Like, no, that made absolutely no sense to me. I can't
Okay,
even
good.
come up with a reason. Like, sometimes I sit here and I try to come up with reasons. I can't come up with a reason. They don't really say exactly how it happens. I don't think in Fire and Blood. Like, they don't go into detail and be like, yes, he walked into the dragon pit, stepped on a nest of eggs, and then climbed on Silverwing. Like,
I just thought of something.
okay,
What if we can twist it this way? What
okay,
if their bond is created on chaos because he stepped on their nest
okay.
and she was like, yes. But then the next shot you see he's flying around King's Landing like a freaking idiot. So, like, I'm not sure if he didn't have control of her, if he wanted to show off. It kind of looked like he didn't have control. He didn't know what he was
It looked like a
doing.
little bit of all of the above.
So I'm
Yeah.
curious if, like, their bond isn't just built on the chaos of everything.
Maybe. Like, I mean,
Look at me trying. I'm trying.
actually, I had to stop thinking about the dragon egg and just focus on how beautiful Silverwing looked. Like, she
Yeah,
looked
she
gorgeous
is.
and she was so pretty to see. Like, and the weirdest thing happened. So I got confused about why they were flying around King's Landing, right? So I was like, I have no idea what the show is doing. I was like, what are y'all doing? But then they're like, Dragon and Aemon got on his horse and ran for Vhagar, and I found myself also cheering for Aemon simultaneously, and I was like,
It was exciting. Like, that's a little sad because we're finally excited that something is happening, but also it was exciting because we were like, go get her, go
do whatever you're about to go do.
I love Vhagar's just like, yes,
okay. The grumpy grandma Vhagar memes are like giving this season
on point. Yeah,
so much like humor. But no, I was like, all right, Aemon, everybody fight.
Yeah, let's go. Let's see some fire.
Yeah, but those are actually all the questions I had for you. So I guess we could jump into our, no pun intended, but also pun intended, fire section.
Yay!
Okay.
Okay, so we did talk about this a little bit ago, but you do think Rhaena is getting Sheepstealer, right? Not
yes, I do think they were subbing in Rhaena for Sheepstealer, and I could be wrong. Like, she could get up to Sheepstealer and it all go terribly wrong, and then she still has her dragon mourning later. Like, Sheepstealer could still like shirk her and be like, nah, Nettles is on the way, I'm waiting for Nettles. But it seems like Rhaena's getting Sheepstealer.
What do you think about that?
I'm sad.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sad. Because so I thought that Daemon and Nettles had a romantic relationship because there's just some stuff that, like, if it's not a romantic relationship, you're like, what is happening? But I thought they had a romantic relationship. And from my understanding of her, I liked who she was for Daemon and also for the story, because it doesn't seem like she has any Targaryen blood, but she can dragon ride based on like an actual like friendship bond with her dragon. But no, I like who Nettles is for the story. I really like who she and Daemon kind of were for each other, because of stuff that I think it's too early to say. But I'm assuming that since they're guilt tripping Daemon in Harrenhal, he and Rhaena might be able to make amends over their relationship, because I know that he and Baela are like similarly spirited, right? Like, Baela is a very headstrong, straight talker. She is just like, go for it. But Rhaena has a much different personality. And so maybe he and her can kind of make, I guess, amends about his parenting and her childhood, I suppose.
Okay,
because
sure.
Daemon is in need. Daemon is in need of making amends, apparently. So maybe they can make it work. I mean, if I can't get Nettles, I'll let it go and just keep it in my head. But hopefully, as long as it's a good storyline for Rhaena and it doesn't like totally mess up the dominoes, I'm okay.
So we maybe saw some fear in Vhagar. Was that fear? Was it fear?
I know it was Aemon. Okay, so I got a little confused about where they were, and it took me a minute. And so when I finally realized that he was flying over to Dragonstone, he 100% was like, nope, not going to that fight all by myself, because like there are, let's see, we don't have Caraxes yet, But we've got Cyrax, we've got Silverwing, we've got Vermithor, we have Vermax, let's see, and we have Seasmoke. So that's 5 dragons to Vhagar. So Aemon made a good call. I think he chased as long as it was 1 and then saw that it was Dragonstone and he was like, no thank you. But it also kind of lets him know, like, 1, he's not reckless because some people would have flown in there, let's be real. But and 2, now he knows that Rhaenyra is amassing dragon riders and that there are new dragon riders, which is gonna like affect his choices moving forward.
So I actually didn't think about that. That's a really good point, that Aemon is now kind of savvy to the fact that she's getting more dragons, getting dragon riders to her side. I didn't really think that that was a kind of a spoiler on the battlefront, but I really appreciated that they made it seem how close, or they made it clear how close Dragonstone is to King's Landing, right? Because I know a lot of things can get lost in the map of Westeros.
Yeah, if you don't know the map.
There's not a lot of showing. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love diving into stuff like that. Like I did it with Middle Earth and everything.
Gotcha.
But without really understanding the geography of Westeros, where King's Landing is and where the Gullet is, even where the Stepstones are from last episode, or last season, and then not knowing how close Dragonstone is, it makes so much more sense once you're able to put everything together.
Yeah,
about Daenerys being close to Dragon. She was born in Dragonstone after they fled King's Landing and all that. Anyway, so I liked that they were able to give the audience a perspective of that.
Yeah, and I think it enhances the threat level, knowing that all these dragons are literally like a 30-minute flight away from, if that, a dragon. If that, they're like maybe 30 minutes to an hour away from each other. And the King's Landing, Dragonstone, the Gullet, and the Stepstones are all in like the same area. Like they're in the same huge circle of space. So which is why everybody has to move so quickly. Like they're amassing armies up in the top of and the bottom of Westeros, but they are like very close to each other. Which is why Eric was like the threat is high. Like you could just send someone over there in either direction. Which is why Daemon and Rhaenyra are always in King's Landing. So
right.
Yeah, it makes it convenient as like for a plot perspective, it makes it convenient. From a character perspective, it raises the threat for sure.
Yeah, good way to say that. So my final question for you is cinematography in this episode was stunning. What did you think of that final episode shot?
That final shot with Rhaenyra, Cyrax, Vermithor, and Silverwing was like, this is what we came here for. Like the expression on Rhaenyra's face is what we have been waiting for the whole time. She was like, yeah, I mean, you better run. But no, it was just like, man. I know. And like, one of the reasons that I want them to be, I guess, obviously I'm not cheering for violence because the point of Game of Thrones is that war is bad, right? But I've been waiting for Rhaenyra to be more of the fire and blood, because like Dany comes straight from her and Daemon's line, right? And it's just like Dragon Queen, House Targaryen, give us this Dany energy.
Yes, thank you. Give us the Dany energy.
So and I know that she's a different character and you can't impose character personalities onto other characters because they're different. But I was like, I enjoy seeing similarities on like family trees in shows because it kind of gives you like more love for each character individually because they have so much of what you love in each of them.
Exactly.
So seeing the 3 dragons behind our dragons so was kind of like Dany's moment was better because Game of Thrones was better in my opinion. But Dany's 3 dragons, when her 3 dragons hatched, like it felt like they were going for a similar thing when her 3 dragons hatch, and then these 3 dragons are behind Rhaenyra. So it felt like a similar vibe, and I was really happy with that. Also, Vermithor standing behind her, and my favorite part, possibly of this whole show, was Hugh and Vermithor, like he was like, come on. And then he reaches his hand out. Vermithor was like, yeah, I like your spirit. I like you.
I know. So I actually loved that scene when he was like, come on. Because if you picture it from any other perspective in a regular movie or TV show, that's when the guy would get burned. He would be in the middle of his, let's go. And then, okay, he's gone.
Like, okay, let's go.
Correct. But now this one, Vermithor was just like, You're okay.
You're my favorite. No, so Vhagar gets her grandma Vhagar jokes. So Vermithor is like kind of close in age. So I vote like Grandpa Vermithor was just like, I like your spirit, son.
Yeah.
I like you. And like he had just lost his daughter too. And like this girl just gets like, he tried to save her and then she just gets burned alive in front of him. And he's like, no. This is my moment. I have waited for this moment because he couldn't do anything for his daughter because she was sick and they're small folk in King's Landing without, medical care and attention. He's like, I'm doing something today, you know? And like, I like the motivation that they have given Hugh. Like, I like they're fleshing out his character more than the books did. I'm very curious how they're going to handle stuff. But I'll reread and see if I could read into it some more.
So if the last shot is Rhaenyra with all of her dragons behind her, does that mean that everybody is being ridden at that point in time? Or are they just letting them out to play?
Hugh is on Vermithor. You can see him. I wanted to see that first dragon ride. We could have skipped Ulf and gone straight to Hugh's dragon ride.
I agree. Yeah.
But so Hugh's on Vermithor and then Ulf flies Silverwing in and lands her on top of the top of Dragonstone. Okay. So everybody's got riders, and I don't know where Seasmoke was, but maybe they were like 3 dragons and then 3 dragons for Dany, so maybe they just kept it to 3. Yeah. But speaking of, I guess, dragons, we've got Dragon Dream section because I saw in the next episode preview Addam is in armor. So speaking of,
I missed that.
Addam is in armor. So let's go. Let's talk about it. Let's just talk about Daemon for just a little bit. I obviously I have canon corrections. I'm gonna make it fast, Michelle. I see your face. I'm gonna make it fast.
I'm ready.
Please don't think that show Daemon is Daemon Targaryen. Daemon would not be getting punked by a 14-year-old, and he did not make a mess of the Riverlands. Like this thing, there's not proof that any of this happened. Like, he amassed armies. We know he amassed armies. We know he brought everybody kind of brought their banners. River Lords are together. This much is known. But like this whole interpersonal crisis, there's not proof that it happened. So I know that you had something that you wanted to say about Daemon too.
I did, specifically about that scene that was out by the Godswood, by the weirwood tree. I couldn't get into that scene. And there was something that you had said in a previous episode that kept coming back to me, that it looked like it was more set for a stage in a play. Mm-hmm. And it kept bringing me out of it.
It throws you out, yeah.
It completely threw me out. It was the way the cinematography was shot. It was the costumes were way too clean and crisp. The set design was too clean and crisp. And just the way that the camera was moving and everything was zoomed in. I don't remember the proper term for it.
They zoomed on his face like for a very long time. And like
everything was just cut in, and it just kept removing me from the scene. And I was just like, that scene was dumb.
No, that scene, I know they were going for Daemon, paying for his sins and like having to pick a side. All right. Like, like you've had all these visions. Where's your choice? So like, I know what they were doing, but someone I was talking to said that House the Dragon feels like a cosplay of Game of Thrones. Like, not in an insulting way.
No, but that's so accurate.
Like, no shade to cosplay. I like very much appreciate cosplayers. So this is not like a dig at cosplay, but as in like the way the show feels.
Yeah, it
feels like you're putting on a performance of it and not being it.
Yes.
So, and
that's a good way to say it.
I agree. Like it felt weird, and also like, just knowing what you know about Daemon's character, even from season 1, like you don't have to read the book. We saw Daemon in season 1. Like this 14-year-old kid just got one over on you in front of everyone. Like, but the one thing that I did like about the scene was it showed, I guess, some of Daemon's growth, because he didn't lash out. He didn't, get angry. He didn't call Caraxes. He was like, you know what? Maybe I may have been over enthusiastic, I think he said. So it does show some character growth, but I found the scene a little too convoluted. Like, I thought about we all remember when Robb Stark had to behead Karstark, right?
Yeah.
So that's what I thought of. I was like, that's not regular convoluted, but that's Game of Thrones feeling convoluted, like
Tension. Yeah.
tension. You have this house is like your banner man. He was just doing right by his kids, and now you have to behead him, right? Or
Yeah, and
Theon and the
and you
Maester.
understand that. Like you're in it with them because he just
You've
lost
seen
his
it.
father and now he has to do this, and like there's just so much happening in the background.
Yeah, and so and then Theon and I think Maester Lewin, right? So like you get like there, I'm okay with like really conflicting scenes, but this scene felt like you got pranked and you bluffed and now had to put up for it again, and like it felt weird.
Yeah,
it felt weird and it felt contrived and forced, and he just roasted Daemon in front of everyone repeatedly, even after Daemon, like, you know, kind of acquiesced and was like, all right, kid, I'll give you this one, but it's only because we're in front of people. He like acquiesced. Right. And then he still kept roasting him. I'm like, okay, thank you. It starts to feel like the show is roasting Daemon. And you're like, no one else is getting roasted. Why? Why are you treating him like this? What did Daemon do to get like... You said what?
Except for Aegon.
Yeah. Oh.
He got roasted.
It took me a second to process what you said.
It took me a second to get it out.
No, it's just like, it feels like it keeps throwing me out because it feels like the show has this vendetta against Daemon. And I'm like, if y'all don't bring his character, like if you had to do it this way, bring it, make it work, you know?
I thought they were going to do that this episode. I thought there was going to be something that was like, okay, they're redeeming his lame ass qualities of the show, but there just wasn't one.
Now, even season 1 Daemon would be giving season 2 Daemon a side eye, and this is this is not book Daemon. If you want to really know Daemon, just read the book because they're going off the rails. So yeah, but I think we already talked about the fact that the dragon seeds are Jace's idea, so we already talked about that. And I wanted to like make just like a random lore note that Hugh's parentage makes sense. So I was upset about Ulf's parentage because Balon and Alyssa were like totally attached to each other, and it didn't make sense to me that, knowing what we know about Balon's personality, that he would be like running amok, you know. But so Jaehaerys had a daughter who I suppose is estranged is the word for like when you're separated on kind of bad blood, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So Jaehaerys had an estranged daughter. Her name was Sarah, and she worked in pleasure houses in Lys and Volantis. So Hugh's parentage and him alluding the fact that, you know, his mom was like sister to Jaehaerys, and daughter to Jaehaerys, and that his mom always said that he was on the same level as, you know, Daemon and Viserys. It makes sense because of Sarah's lifestyle, I guess, because she and Jaehaerys parted on some bad blood. So, but she worked in the various pleasure houses, and so his parentage makes more sense to me than Ulf's, even though I'm sure Balon probably was doing his thing, but like he and Alyssa had a bond, and so it felt like you were kind of challenging that bond, I guess, with Ulf's. But with Hugh's, it's like canonically, like, yes, this was happening.
It makes sense.
Yeah. And I guess this brings us to the next episode preview, which, okay, I'm going to be completely transparent as I try to be on this show. I don't really know what they're doing in the next episode. I thought I was seeing the gullet. I don't think we're seeing the gullet anymore.
I don't think so.
Unless these scenes that we saw in the next episode preview are like the first 30 minutes of the episode. Sure. Because sometimes they do that. Sometimes they're like, first 30 minutes, it's all you need to know, and then we're going to surprise you in the end, right? So I did some research, and so we're just going to go kind of briefly, beat by beat, and I'll keep it short. This is spoilers, by the way. And Michelle, if you want to take your headphones off, I would understand. So okay. If you want to take them off, I would understand. Spoiler. If you don't want to know anything about what's going to happen next episode, we will see you next week after the season's over. But so little Aegon and little Viserys are supposed to go to, I think, Pentos, but their ships are, I guess, attacked. And they take little Viserys, they take him away. The people who attack his ship take him away. And Aegon gets out of there on Stormcloud, and he flies back to Dragonstone on Stormcloud. His dragon saves his life, but his dragon doesn't survive. So we may see a little bit of that. There's also some stuff that's happening down kind of, I guess, southwest, I think. So the high towers are moving, but since we haven't seen Darren, unless they're going to introduce Darren in the last episode of the season, which I'd be okay with, unless they're going to introduce Darren in the last episode of the season, we're probably not going to see the south, but we might. Okay, and then we see, I think we see Rhaenyra approach King's Landing. So the gullet is supposed to happen before King's Landing falls. So after what happens to the gullet happens, it's like fills Rhaenyra with like anger and rage, and they do fly for King's Landing. Rhaenyra, Daemon, I'm looking at my notes. Rhaenyra, Daemon, and their dragons kind of converge on King's Landing because Vhagar is away, marching with their army. So, but the gullet is supposed to happen before then. So those are the next beats that I kind of expect. I really don't know what to expect because I didn't really understand the next episode preview. Let's get Michelle back in here.
How'd you do?
I've just given my very convoluted prediction of something that I really don't know how to predict. But so like timestamp wise, I think in the next episode preview, there's a shot of Rhaenyra like pulling up Cyrax, and like we see Aemon burn some city that I did not recognize. I didn't recognize the city, either that or he found it burning. He either burnt it or he found it burning. We'll see. But I really I don't know what's going on in the next episode. I just gave what I can guess at based on timestamps. And Michelle, do you want to talk about the gullet, or do you want to just wait until we get it and then we can just be like, this is what happened?
We can talk about it next episode, I think. Even if it doesn't happen, I think we can still talk about it. It does feel like they're leading up to something big, obviously, because of the last shot we got of that episode yesterday and everything. And then, Aemon now sees that what she's doing. So it is kind of, moving forward with something big coming.
Yeah, and like Addam's in armor, and we see Alan. Alan is on the ship, right? So, and they both should partake in the gullet. So I'm guessing these clips that we're seeing are like the first 30 minutes, and then they're just gonna like gullet
go
at
for
the
it.
end.
Yeah.
Which pacing wise, I think that the gullet's a good place to stop, because then you've got aftermath for next, and then if they wanted to, if they really wanted to like mush the timelines together, you could gullet. Rhaenyra takes, next step, and then start of season 3 can be aftermath stuff.
Okay, so sure.
Pacing wise, it would make sense. So hopefully we will get the gullet. We'll see. It needs to happen for other stuff to happen. So they gotta fit it in there somehow.
Yeah, I hope so. Because last season 2 ended on a pretty high note with the chomp. And then this was supposed to be some fallout from that. So, this season. So yeah, I'm looking forward to doing the next episode, especially because we're going to have a little finale party.
We're going to have a finale party. So we should be having some guests back. And I'm excited. Like, I enjoy our finale parties. I think they're really fun. And if they surprise us with the gullet, we will get into like the book canon and the lore on that.
Yeah.
I'm not excited for the pain and violence, but I'm excited for the spectacle.
Oh, it should be a spectacle. There's multiple dragons. There should be a spectacle.
Yes.
It's to be expected.
And I'm not saying that they're gonna make this a pattern, but there's a pattern that they could do if they pace things properly. So I'm gonna see if they're gonna start the pattern. We'll see, because there's some repeat incidents that happen, and we're gonna see if they start the pattern. So I can't spoil it because I have no idea if we're gonna see it next episode. It's huge. It's a big spoiler. So I'll just gonna leave it alone.
Yep. So we will be back every week on CouchSoup.com during season 2 to recap the latest episode of House of the Dragon.
Yeah, be sure to hit that like button, ring the bell, and let us know in the comments what lore you'd like us to dive into next. As you can see, we are perfectly happy going on rants. And if I don't know what's happening, I will also tell you that I have no idea what's happening, and I'll make my best guess.
Yep, and we have one more episode to go, and that's it.
One more. Yeah, so, it's been fun. It's been. I like season 1 better. This one has had its moments. Like the Hugh and Vermithor moment is one of my top Game of Thrones moments. Like that was beautiful. So this one has had its moments. I'm not here to be a hater. I'm here to support. So
we'll see. We'll see what happens next week. And then we will see you next week with all the fire and soup.
All right. Bye.